Hi guys, this is Dan. Welcome back to my channel. Last week I did a fantasy book recommendation video. They are all the books that I have read in this year and they are books that I enjoy. So in a sense, you can say they are my favorites so far in this year. Today we are going to explore the other side. What are the worst books I have read in this year? Firstly, a very friendly reminder or disclaimer. Books on this list could be your favorites, could be the best books for you. Just remember, reading is also about your personal taste. There could be books that we all like or books that you love but I don't. So it is okay to have different opinions about them because we just all love reading here. I want to take it really easy for the first book. It might be a shock to some of you because it is a popular series. And it is The Light of All That Falls by James Islington, the last book of the Godkiller trilogy. Don't get me wrong, I love this series. To sum up this really complicated fantasy trilogy, it is about now defending the threat from the north. The barrier is weakening, and if those who are blocked by it can come through, it will mean the end of humanity. So our main character, Caden, Davian, Asha, Burr needs to find a way to protect their home. There are chapters about now and flashbacks about the past. In between them, we will learn about the history, how the gods gonna intervene in this matter. And not long ago, there is a rebellion against the augurs. Those who can use Khan to grant them different powers, abilities like reading your mind and manipulate the time. It is such a complicated story with lots of details between now and the past. I do like how the story unfolds, although sometimes I will find it a bit on the slower side. But I do particularly like the ending, especially the epilogue. I would even say it showcases how a trilogy, a series should end. It is emotional and answers the biggest question I have when I was reading. Up until this point, you may be thinking, I am praising this book. Why would I put it on the worst book of 2024? And the reason is super simple, a massive plot hole. No spoiler here, but in the last book, when James Islington was writing it, he thought that if he included everything to the story, it would be so long. So instead, he took out a subplot from it. When I was reading it, I guess it is over halfway through. Some familiar characters come up as help with a group of characters we barely know. Through the conversation, we know that this suddenly pop-up characters has done something in the beginning of the story to help another character. So to me, I feel like I missed some journey here. I know that the plan was to publish this missing plot hole as a novella, but now we have a new series, The Wheel of the Many, but there is no updates about this novella at all. So instead of saying that it is the worst book I have read in 2024, I will more likely say it is a disappointing read. Speaking of the last book of the series that I didn't enjoy, I also have another one. It is The Pattern of the World by J.T. Greathouse, the last book of the Pact and the Pattern trilogy. It is an Asian-inspired fantasy world in which we follow our main character, Wen Elder, who was raised by two different ideologies. On one side, his father wants him to work for the Empire, but on the other hand, Wen discovered that his mother's side has been leading rebellion against this empire. Also from his grandmother, he learned some magic tricks. With this interesting background, Wen hopes that by becoming the hand of the emperor, he could make the world better according to his will. Unfortunately, while he is working for the empire, he discovered the secret plans of the emperor. So he tried to rectify his mistakes. As the story expands, we're gonna meet other characters as our new POVs. Let's say we have Koroha, the tutor of Wen Elder, and also Pinion, a rivalry. What I do enjoy about this series, this trilogy, is the journey of Wen Elder. From a little boy with his own dreams how the world should be, to witness the horror of the empire, of what they are doing, and how cruel the world actually is. The journey is always emotional, but the thing I am not the biggest fan of is the ending. The story feels to me wrapped up in such a rush. It suddenly turns into a short moral discussion about how the world should be, and the next chapter already is a very short epilogue. I think by the end of the series, we have already met a lot of characters, and there is such a growth in them, and I am curious to find out how they are doing. When I put this book down, I thought, really, that's it? So if you want to check this series out, I would still say go for it. It is still entertaining, especially if you enjoy a story focused on the growth, the journey of one character. But I would say there could be better choices out there. So now, after 2 final books of a series, I just find out that the rest on the list is actually the first book of a series. So let's start with the one that I think is not that bad. Around the Valentine's days of this year, I decided to step out of my comfort zone and read romantasy. At that time, the choice was so obvious it should be the best of the best, and it was The Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I'm not gonna lie here, I did enjoy reading House of Earth and Blood, so I wanna read other works by her, and this time I went with Throne of Glass. Now I am on book 5 and I will agree that every book is getting better and better, but the Throne of Glass is possibly the worst among them. The plot of the whole series gonna get significantly larger across the books, but if we are just looking at the first one, it is about our main character, Selena, wanna regain her freedom by becoming the champion of the King of Arkland. Through this competition, Selena gonna meet Chaos, the captain of the guard, and also the Prince Dorian. She will also discover a massive scheme hidden beneath the glass castle. The reason I would say it is the worst book is only because I have finished 4 already, and this one feels to me a bit underwhelming. Maybe part of the reason I went back from The Crescent City back to this debut novel, there are action scenes, but Selena at this point is still an assassin, so the actions here are not as exciting as the later ones. Also, there are not enough smarts in this book. Overall, I would say that the whole series will get better and better, and the first one is like a founding stone for the later installment. So here comes to another one. I would say it is not that bad among these like worst books. It is the first book of the Fallen God series, Godkiller by Hannah Kinner. I think the issue for me here is the pacing. In this book, we're gonna follow 4 main characters. We have the Godkiller Kison, a noble girl called Inara, who bonded with a god of white lies called Skepti. At last, a retired knight turned into a baker called Ilogust. For their own reasons, they wanna seek the answers from the gods. The gods in this world were born because of the desires of humans. Now they will ask for the offerings from the humans so that in return they will help them. So Inara wanna end this tie with this white light god, and Ilogust wanna get some answers, get some help for his friend who is also a king. I like the setting of the gods in this world, but I found the pacing a bit odd for me. This book is not long already, but it took over a third for our main characters to finally come together. And then on their way to this city where the gods are, they're gonna meet a huge group of companions, let alone the dangerous. But then nearly all these side characters gonna fade into the background eventually. When our main characters arrive at the destination, things take off really quickly. From discovering the truth to the fight, everything just suddenly becomes so fast-paced. I haven't read the sequel yet and I don't have any plan for it, but I feel like the ending of the first book, you can continue from here, rather than waiting for the next book if it makes any sense to you. I would say it is still a good one if you enjoy a cozy fantasy, or if you enjoy food in a fantasy world, this one is also for you, because you can tell the author is such a good foodie. So here comes to the main course, the worst books I have read in 2024. Don't hate me if you like them, but I hate them. The first one I have Fatebound by Sarah L. Arafi, the first book of the Fatebound series. This one is about a pair of elf sisters. One is called Iran, a warrior, and the other one is Lato, a diviner. One day Iran made a serious mistake because she listened to the advice of her sister. As a result, she got exiled. Iran tried to make it up and Lato felt guilty about it, so she followed her sister. But this effort leads them to the impossible, the Fae court. Since then, they need to find a way home and discover the secrets with the Fae. So my issues with this book are quite a lot, from the characters, the romance, and how the story unfolds. The younger sister, Lato, I feel like she acts like a typical teenager and makes some silly mistakes along the way, which is my least favorite kind of personality. The romance here is from enemy to lover. I just don't know how to describe it. I find it from someone you hate to love. it is something that is quite difficult to master. How can you make it possible for a pair of enemies to fall in love other than suddenly saying like, oh, you're so beautiful now, or like feeling the need or like being horny, you know? I just find the romance here is not convincing enough. As for the plot, Leto is a diviner so that she can give us some foreshadowing, but I just find the clues are so obvious. With the limited world building here, there couldn't be anything else that could possibly happen. So as dumb as me, I can get the direction of how the story gonna unfold, so I would say that this story is lack of a bit of wow surprise factor. That is also the reason why I have already unhauled this book. Finally, we come to the last book on this list, and I would say that it is this book inspired me to do this video, and it is 5 Broken Blades by Godkiller, the first book of the Broken Blades series. I think this book is the victim of false advertising and unfortunately poor writing. Just by the synopsis, this story is about a group of killers gonna take down the God King. These killers can be assassins good at poisoning or even an exiled prince. They work for their own interests, so they have to play a mind game while doing this dangerous, impossible task. But turns out it is a fantasy romance. Okay, don't get me wrong here, I don't mind this subgenre and I did enjoy reading Sarah J. Maas, but I think it would be better to give us some hints in the synopsis so that we will know that it is a romantasy. In the beginning, this group of 6 killers gonna work in a pair of 2 and then they will travel to see the rest. So on their way, the love interest will be slowly developing, but I just find that the romance here is on the convenient side. The first one we have love at first sight, and then we have one that's secretly loving you for so long but didn't tell you, and then we have a back with the ex. So the author can easily fit all these 3 pairs of lovers in just one book. Then when it comes to the so-called manipulation, it did happen more by the second half of the book, but it is like this character wanna achieve this outcome, so I secretly make a deal with another character. So I did try my best to finish this book, but the ending feels to me is like well done everybody, but it is an April's Fool. The twist makes sense because the suspicion is so obvious along the way. Other than that, the writing here is probably the worst I have read in this year. The chapter is usually 3 to 4 pages long with broken paragraphs. The characters are also on a stereotyping side. Let's say I want to have this alpha male character, so he gonna be so butch. And then I have this one that is full of secrets, so he didn't speak much. With poorly executed romance, flat characters, average writing, this is probably the worst I have read in 2024 or even in my entire life. So here are the 6 worst books I have read in 2024. To be honest, I think some of them is still fine because they are just having some minor issue. Let's say a missing plot hole or the first book to a massive complicated fantasy world. But for the 5 Broken Blades, you know what I mean. Let me know in the comment what is the worst book you have read so far in 2024. If you have enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a like. If you don't want to miss any content from me, make sure you have subscribed to my channel. I will see you all real soon. Goodbye.